All right, we're back with a Fox News alert. ICE releasing new migrant arrest numbers from an operation in Massachusetts that they say is their largest nationwide operation ever.
Operation Patriot ran during the month of May and resulted in the arrest of more than 1,400 illegal migrants throughout the state of Massachusetts, 790 of which had previous criminal convictions or charges, while another 277 had final orders of removal and deportation orders.
Imagine if they got cooperation from the local police, how much better they could have been. Fox News got to ride along with one of the teams last week. The U.S. Attorney for the District of Massachusetts is set to hold a news conference later today with ICE officials to discuss their results.
I think the important point is the one that you raised, Brian. You had the locals as well as the state police did not help ICE with this operation. So they had to get more guys, and the amount of criminals that they were able to capture on this operation, this is their best operation yet.
So Bill Malugin was embedded with them, and he was sitting here on the Curvy couch on the Weekend Show. Watch this.
Within like 3 or 4 hours, take a look at this graphic right here. These are some of the people they arrested while we were with them. There was a Salvadoran on El Salvador's most wanted list with an Interpol red notice out for aggravated murder, kidnapping, and robbery. You had a convicted child rapist from El Salvador, previously deported, living right next to a playground, I would add. You had another guy arrested for child sexual assault. He was from Colombia. Massachusetts is kind of like the perfect storm of issues because when people get arrested for these heinous crimes out there, they have such low bail. They just release them, and then they don't comply with ICE detainers. So that's what leads to what you're seeing right here.
So that was Bill Malugin yesterday on the ride along, and that's just it. I know the president just rotated his new ICE director out. He wants to see the numbers bigger. To me, I'm fine with the numbers because, number one, he's stopping new people from coming in.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So we got to continue our coverage of the Trump administration cracking down on illegal immigration, specifically in these blue states, in these blue cities, these sanctuary cities, these sanctuary states that have determined that instead of working with the administration to deport the illegal immigrants, no, they were going to defy the Trump administration. They chose to obstruct the Trump administration, and now they're effing around and they're finding out. Okay, we have another story of F around and find out, featuring Massachusetts, which just experienced what I believe to be the largest ICE operation in that state's history. Okay, about 1,500 illegals were arrested or detained, and a lot of them are subject to deportation. And now you have a whole lot of boohoo, whine, and crying, a whole lot of tears, a whole lot of sad sob stories that quite honestly have zero effect on people like me, right? I mean, I don't know what these people think. Okay, they think these tears are going to change my mind. No, it's not going to change my mind. And I'm going to explain to you guys why it's not going to change my mind, why I'm not going to feel bad about it, because ultimately today, this is the fault of the Democrats that are running these states, that are running these cities, who were warned about this beforehand, but again, they chose not to cooperate, okay? And this story out of Massachusetts involves a high school student, right? Another adult high school student who's 18 years old, and he was taken into custody by ICE on his way to volleyball practice. Now, he was not the target of the ICE operation, but he got swept up in the operation. And he is in the country illegally, right? And that is why he is now being detained by ICE. And now you have these woke high school students in tears, right? Boo-hoo, whine, and crying, all the teenage girls. They're really upset by what happened to this adult high school student. And I want to react to it because, again, they were warned about this, but Democrats chose not to listen. And now the tears are flowing.
Today's rally was organized after the town says a high schooler was detained by ICE on Saturday. His family identifies him as Marcelo Gomez.
Free Marcelo!
Free Marcelo is the chant at Milford Town Hall.
Free Marcelo!
More than 500 people came to rally for the release of 18-year-old Marcelo Gomez. People in the car say the Milford High School junior was detained by ICE agents on his way to volleyball practice Saturday morning.
I was also being interrogated by ICE officers.
Iago Sampaio told us he was in the same car as Marcelo.
If I was a year older, I would have been in the back of the car with my friend.
Gomez's family says he came to the U.S. from Brazil at age 5 and settled in Milford. Relatives say Marcelo was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
They're not waiting for him. No, they're looking for somebody else.
I don't see how a kid en route to volleyball practice who's an honors student, who's a musician in the high school band, that kid's not a threat to law and order.
Marcelo was supposed to play in the Milford High band at graduation Sunday. After getting their diplomas, Milford High graduates marched to the rally for Marcelo.
It's absolutely incredible that the community can come together like this. He's an amazing person and he deserves the world, and this is it.
He's like a brother to me, and this is so disappointing that I have to see this happen for him to get out. He's a great human being. He never did anything, so I don't understand why we're going through all this, especially on a day like this where we graduated. Yeah.
It is unclear where ICE is holding Marcelo Gomez. We have reached out to ICE about that information, but have not heard back.
Life can change in an instant. One moment you're fine, the next, well, everything is different. You're left with questions, with pain, with the feeling that you've been wrong, and the system, well, it feels like it is built against you. This is why you need somebody that's on your side, somebody that understands, somebody that will fight for you. At Morgan & Morgan, they're not just lawyers, they're advocates. They're here to give you a voice when yours feels lost. They've recovered billions for people just like you. Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm, takes on all types of injury cases from car accidents to medical malpractice. They fight for your rights and the compensation that you deserve if you become their client so that you can focus on healing. They've achieved significant verdicts over the past few months for the victims involved in life-altering car crashes, like out in Florida, a $12 million verdict, which was over 34 times the highest insurance offer. And they work on a contingency fee basis, which means that you don't pay unless you win. It's really that simple, to be honest with you. So you can start your claim now with Morgan & Morgan at forthepeople.com/blackconservative, which will be in the description below, right? The link will be in the description below, or you can scan the QR code on the screen with your phone's camera.
Students pouring out of Milford High School marching in support of a classmate who is now in an ICE detention facility. Marcelo Gomez was picked up on his way to volleyball practice. But the country's top ICE agent is standing by that arrest. Thank you for joining us. I'm David Wade.
And I'm Lisa Hughes. As Brandon Truitt found out, the 18-year-old wasn't the intended target, but his detainment is part of a larger operation in Massachusetts.
A lot of people in this community are hurting. Frankly, some are stunned. But federal immigration officials are defiant. They will deport any undocumented immigrant, criminal or not.
ICE is not going away. We are coming for you.
It was a rare and at times heated press conference with this country's leading immigration officials, and it was meant to highlight the work of a month-long mission in Massachusetts called Operation Patriot. ICE revealing for the first time they arrested nearly 1,500 undocumented immigrants last month in the state. About half of those were people with a criminal record. More than 270 were repeats, having been removed before.
We're doing the job that ICE should have been doing all along.
But most of the questions centered around the detention of an undocumented Milford High School junior over the weekend. 18-year-old Marcelo Gomez was heading to volleyball practice in his dad's car when he was pulled over on Saturday. ICE says they were looking for his father.
When we go out into the community and we find others who are unlawfully here, we are going to arrest them. We've been completely transparent with that.
What are our priorities here? What are we doing? It just makes no sense.
Robin Nice is Gomez's attorney. She says only one member of her team has had contact with Gomez since his detainment, adding he entered the country legally from Brazil 10 years ago with a student visa.
Despite all the rhetoric around coming after people with criminal records or people who have, didn't enter lawfully, this is not that guy. And it just shows that that is not actually what's happening.
That frustration boiling over for Gomez's classmates who walked out of school Monday. Students were crying, consoling one another. Some of them prayed. Gomez's girlfriend says she's worried for his safety.
Marcelo was God's servant. He always preached the message of love. He loved his neighbor.
And I will say, his dad hasn't turned himself in yet, and his dad knows he's the target of it.
As the search for the father continues, family of Gomez speaking first to WBZ about the state of fear for this community and family.
They're scared to leave their homes. They're even scared to walk their dogs or throw their trash out because the moment they step out of their homes, they could be detained at any point.
Gomez's attorney says he's being held in Massachusetts. She's filed a petition for his release, but tells me it could be over a week before he's given a hearing. In Milford, Brandon Truitt, WBZ News.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. Okay, these salty tears are flowing, okay? The salt is flowing. They're telling the sad sob story about this high school student and how he was such a great kid, and he was in band, and he was an honor student, and the stories they tell all the time. And I'm not saying none of that is true. I'm just saying that ultimately, at the end of the day, if they're gonna boohoo, whine, and cry about this, if they're wondering why is this happening, what they need to do is that they need to point the finger at the Democrats that are running their state, okay? Because it's their fault. As the Trump administration, these immigration officials are going to outline here in this press conference, because this is what I've been telling you guys over the past few days, how, again, a lot of this is the fault of the Democrat Party, because we tried to warn them about not cooperating and what that would lead to. But again, they didn't listen.
All right, let's join in progress. U.S. immigration officials in Boston, they're updating arrests that happened in that state.
To go out into communities and look for people. When jurisdictions don't cooperate with ICE and we don't arrest people, custodial arrests, then we must go out into the community. And when we go out into the community and we find others who are unlawfully here, we are going to arrest them. We've been completely transparent with that. He's 18 years old, he's unlawfully in this country. And unfortunately, we had to go to Milford to look for someone else, and we came across him, and he was arrested. That's where that stands.
Exactly. It is what it is. We told you. We tried to tell you. We tried to tell you. We tried to tell these Democrats. But they effed around, and then they're finding out. And then they want to boo-hoo, whine, and cry victim. I don't want to hear it. I don't care about the tears. You can cry all you want, but you had a chance. We went on national television. Tom Homan went on national television 1,000 times and told these people very explicitly in plain English. Maybe he should have said it in Spanish, right? Maybe that was the problem. But he said it in plain English that if you choose not to cooperate, if you choose not to allow local and state police to work with ICE to deport the illegals, we're going to have to do the operations ourselves. We're going to have to spend extra taxpayer dollars that we otherwise wouldn't have to spend. We're going to have to use more resources, more taxpayer resources that we otherwise would not have to use in order to conduct our operations. But the mass deportations are going to happen. And when we go into these communities and we find these illegals, whoever they're with is also going to be subject to detainment and deportation. Okay? We're looking for criminals. But if we so happen to find other illegals with the criminals, they're leaving too. And we told them this 1,000 times. 1,000 times. But they refused to listen. They decided that, no, we're good. We're not going to allow police to cooperate. And now you have to face the consequences. You got to face the consequences. And if you think that, again, these sad sob stories are going to change my mind, right? Or people like me or conservatives, people who, want to see the mass deportations, you're sadly mistaken, right? You are sadly mistaken. If you did not want stuff like this to happen, if you didn't want ICE to use these tactics, then you should have cooperated. If you were cooperating, if local police and state police were cooperating with ICE agents, then you probably have some leeway in regards to who gets deported, who doesn't get deported, right? Who may get a pass, who may not get a pass, who ICE chooses to, hey, we're going to turn our head, right? We're going to, okay, this guy, he's been in the country for a little bit, right? 18 years old, high school student. You know what? We might just let this one slide. See, they could have had that option had they cooperated. But since they chose not to cooperate, you don't get that option anymore. Now you got to deal with the consequences. I don't understand what is so hard to comprehend about this.
Someone dangerous and violent?
Well, I'll take that one. So we're looking for his father. So obviously he's the father of the year because brought his son up here illegally as well. And yes, we had intelligence from a local law enforcement agency. We were looking for the father. And like Field Officer Director High said, they made a traffic stop on that vehicle, which was the father's vehicle. He was driving that vehicle. But like any local law enforcement officer, if you encounter someone that has a warrant, or like I said, is here illegally, we will take action on that. We're doing the job that ICE should have been doing all along, and then we enforce all immigration laws.
What is dangerous about a high school junior who's about to play in the graduation ceremony, play in the band the next day? I guess, what is the danger of the 18-year-old to that community?
So I'll put it back on you. What about an 18-year-old who's just stopped for a traffic violation by Mass State Police, who's wanted to be a habitual traffic offender on his way to graduation? Would you be asking that same question to the Mass State Police for not arresting him? Like, I didn't say he was dangerous. I said he's in this country illegally, and we're not going to walk away from anybody.
So where is he? Is he having due process? Does he have a lawyer?
Yeah, well, the whole due process thing, ICE doesn't just scoop people off the street and remove them. Everyone gets due process, and that is what the U.S. Attorney's Office for. It's what the immigration courts are for. They all do that. He will go in front of an immigration judge. He'll have the opportunity to post bond. But again, I'm just going to ask you a question. Boston police stopped an 18-year-old on the way to high school. Are we having this conversation right now?
Well, there would be a crime. There would be some evidence that we would...
It happens every day. Every day. There are multiple 18-year-olds arrested. But yet, we are focused on this one. And I will say, his dad hasn't turned himself in yet, and his dad knows he's the target of it. So,
you know, these people in the media, these so-called journalists, right, really propagandists, they make me sick. Can't stand them. Can't stand them. First and foremost, doesn't matter if he's a high school student. I don't give a damn about him being in the band. I don't give a damn about him about to graduate. None of that is relevant to me. What is relevant is that he's in the country illegally. Now, again, if you got questions about why was he scooped up, then you need to be directing those questions towards the Democrats. What you need to be doing is asking Democrats. Ask the Democrats, why are they not cooperating? That's what they should be asking. Why are you not cooperating? Because cooperation probably could have prevented this. Cooperation probably would have resulted in the operations being, a little bit more targeted. But because they don't want to cooperate, they've lost that luxury. You've lost the luxury of saying, well, we only going to go after these people. No, they told you if you do not cooperate, then, hey, we're going to have to do the operation ourselves. And whoever we find, whoever gets swept up is going to get swept up. Now, all of a sudden, again, they want to act shocked. Pikachu face, right? That we were not bullshitting, right? We were not bullshitting about what was going to happen if they didn't cooperate. Again, this is fascinating. Absolutely fascinating.
What's the dam targeted for? Sorry, the other box? Question. So the governor says Massachusetts is not a sanctuary state, but your teams don't receive assistance when you hit like all these different counties across, not just in Boston, but in these other suburbs and places across the state. So what's your response to the governor on that, and how difficult is it for your teams to not get that assistance? Like when you went to Operation Tidal Wave in Florida, it's a different scenario. You come to Boston, it seems like it's a little bit more difficult.
I think it's a matter of semantics, right? We can say we're not a sanctuary state, but when people are arrested for local charges, drug traffickers who are peddling poison in our communities are walking out the door, not turned over to ICE, what does that sound like to all of you? That's sanctuary. When states and local jurisdictions don't cooperate with ICE and they let bad actors walk out into the community, they let child rapists just walk back out, $500 bail, that is sanctuary. So it's fine to say that you're not, but your actions absolutely show something different.
I have
the U.S. Supreme Court last week halted a ruling out of Boston.
All right, there reporters.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. It is what it is. We tried to tell you, we tried to warn you. You didn't listen. You don't want to cooperate. You want to obstruct. You want to play games. So, hey, play silly games, win silly prizes, right? You F around, and then you finding out. So, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.